Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you today. I'm trying to get the day's videos done early before the heat of the day really settles in. We're looking at 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit today. So I'd like to get everything, as much as I can get done before then, because of the heat of that, I'm just going to want to sprawl out in front of an open window with an electric fan on and read. Uh, I'm going to try to read analog print and paper books this afternoon and the early evening. I'm going to try to do that. And I'm going to try to spend a lot of time outside with my little bean. She's not all that big on hiking in the field and stream, hiking in the wilderness and whatnot. Stream here being metaphorical. The brook where we go hasn't had any running water in it since, I think, early April. It's dried completely and it's not ever going to come back. There's not going to be any snow melt, but there's not going to be any snow. And there's not going to be any natural flow of that brook because there's not going to be any rain. So right now it's just a slight declivity in the ground when we walk by. And it's always going to stay that way. It's a little bit melancholy. I have memories of that stream in all of its moods. It would get low during the heat of summer. It would burst back to life with snow melt. It would burst back to life in the wake of 2 or 3 days of rain. I have memories of those. It's a little bit melancholy to be reminded by an 80-degree day in early November in Boston. It's a little bit melancholy to be reminded of that those are just memories now, that I might be boring young people in 20 years by saying, this field right here, once upon a time there was a divot that ran through the middle of this field and it was a brook. The children who are being born now, who will be 20 then, will not know what a brook is, and I will have to explain it to them, and that will be very boring for them. All of this is a little melancholy, that water is disappearing all over the world, that brooks and streams are disappearing all over the world, that navigation from source to sea of the Mississippi is not possible anymore and hasn't been possible in a couple of years. There are now islands of exposed rock and soil. No snow on Mount Fuji. I'm sure you've seen the pictures of that, etc., etc. Just all over the world. Water is disappearing. Cycles of moisture are becoming either non-existent or cataclysmic. But nothing in between. That's a little melancholy, of course. It's a perfect bookend for the U.S. presidential election, which is happening. Voting is happening today. The U.S. presidential election is a small, localized version of an intensely important event over which you have no control at all. And then the broader, less personalized version of that is the climate itself, which for my entire life was a backstop. It was a given. Be a whole bunch of other things that would change, but that was a given. That the autumn would get crisp and cool, then it would get cold, then there would be a frost, then there would be a few snows, dustings before Halloween, snowstorm, at least 1 or 2 before Thanksgiving, and then December, January, and February full of snowstorms and very cold nights. For no matter whether when spring came or when what the ancients used to refer to as autumn. When autumn came around, I would wonder, I wonder how bad this winter will be. Will it be mild comparatively, or will it be major? Will it maybe have a couple of historic storms that go into the history books? And it's a little bit melancholy. It's a lot melancholy, I admit. To be sitting here and know that pattern is broken and is not coming back. That pattern has changed. But there's absolutely nothing that I can do about that. The only thing that even approached doing something about that would be to move. And where am I supposed to move? There is no source of fresh water anywhere in the United States that is not disappearing. There is no source of fresh water anywhere in the world that is not disappearing. Freshwater sources on the surface of this planet are withdrawing. Aquifers are withdrawing. No one saw that coming. No one has a completely adequate explanation for it. But it's hand in hand with the fact that winter is a distant memory. We had 2 cold days last year. For the whole of the time period that was known as winter, we had 2 cold days. And one of them was freakish. One of them was 50 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. That's what it's going to be like. Before the embers go out completely, they are going to glow. That's a little bit melancholy, but the day is beautiful. So the Bean and I will spend some time out there, and I will also try to do a lot of analog reading, a lot of print and paper book reading, so that I'm not even tempted to look at the results of this election. So I'm not even tempted to look at the progress of this election. Since there's nothing I can do about it, why wrap myself up in knots about it? is what I'm trying to tell myself, and it's also what I'm trying to tell you. But I thought we'd look at the mail. Let's long throat clearing. Let's look at the mail. Like, for instance, a periodical. I got the National Review. My periodicals are askew. They are askew. Because I have canceled my subscription to half a dozen of them and renewed my subscription to another half a dozen of them, and that doesn't seem to take. None of those changes seem to have taken. I don't want to be an old fogey and say that the reason why none of them have taken is because I did all of them online. Plenty of people do plenty of stuff online, and it all works just fine. That can't be it. Forever and ever, if I wanted to subscribe to a new magazine or renew a subscription to something I once subscribed to years ago, I would either go to a big Barnes & Noble and just pull a paper subscription card out of one of the magazines, or I would go to Out of Town News in Cambridge, across the river, a big, gigantic news kiosk, and do the same thing. Pull a subscription card out of one of those things. Or maybe phone call. Just recently, with all of this change in periodicals that I wanted to arrange, I didn't do either of those. I did them all online, and none of that seems to have worked. I know some of you skeptics, some of you suspicious Aloysiuses are going to say maybe I should wait and have David Murphy do it. But you know, I have a life outside of David Murphy. I should be able to do this myself. There are plenty of doddering old senior citizens who do this successfully online. I'll have to check. I tried a whole bunch of new subscriptions, and I canceled a whole bunch of old ones, and I keep getting the same March of the Elephant stuff here, of the stuff that I either don't want or that I want other stuff in addition to it. The National Review teeters right on the edge of being something that I don't want anymore, because magazines like this have a feature of the so-called back of the book. This is an explicitly political magazine. It's a right-wing political magazine. The old right-wing, the right-wing that wasn't insane, might have been evil, but it wasn't insane. It wasn't a fascist wing, a personality cult for one bald, syphilitic Queen's rapist. It wasn't just a personality cult of one person. That's all the political stuff is at the front of this magazine, and then typically when you have a back of the book feature, the book reviews and the cultural reviews, books and movies and whatnot, will be in the back half of the magazine and will not be contaminated by any of the ideology of the front half. So that for years and years and years, with the New Republic or National Review or whatnot, you could buy that magazine regardless of your politics or its politics, just for the book reviews. And I did that forever and ever. National Review is teetering on the edge of that. They seem to be letting a lot of political stuff seep into the back of the book. But there is a long piece here on, I think, a new collection of the ghost stories of Sheridan Le Fanu. And that would be interesting to read. That is a sure indicator, that a little gauge of where this magazine stands in my mental thinking, because a long piece on Sheridan Le Fanu is not enough to justify getting this magazine in the mail. But we will see. Hopefully I will have different periodical stuff to talk to you about. My new periodical landscape, maybe I should email David and make sure I'm doing it all right, or just give him all my login information and have him do it for me. It seems to be the most direct route. Anyway, now let's look at the mail. I think a couple of these packages are suspect. But one of them, this first one at least, is from a publisher. So it's not suspect at all. Let's see here. Okay, so we have a lot of paperwork that we don't need. Steve does not need paperwork. Oh, Steve does not especially need paperwork that has this metal staple. I swear, what is this? The 19th century? Let's see here. This is by Carol Phillips, and it is called Another Man in the Street. It's a novel. And I don't want to jinx things, but we are noticing it looks like our little grace period, the last 2 years, 15 months of really good American book covers in the mainstream. It looks like that little grace period is over. Spent years on this channel mocking how ostentatiously hideous American book covers are, and then it stopped being true. Well, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. But I don't think Carol Phillips has written a novel in a long time. Am I wrong about that? I might not be remembering it. Oh, no. Yeah, this comes out in early January, and it is her first novel in 7 years. Phillips sets this hypnotic, heartbreaking novel against the bright and changing lights of 1960s London, exploring identity, migration, and history, themes long associated with his writing. Another Man in the Street centers on three people whose lives are intertwined. In London's swinging 60s, Victor Johnson, a young immigrant from the Caribbean, arrives in Britain with dreams of becoming a journalist in the mother country. Instead, he finds work collecting rent for Peter Feldman, a landlord equally kind and unscrupulous, and then falls into a relationship with Peter's lonely secretary, Ruth, herself a migrant from the north of England. I always remember that comedy skit. I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube, where a posh London mother is informing her two children that unfortunately, due to a miscommunication of their schedule, she's had to hire a nanny from a service to look after them for the day. And there's worse news. The nanny is from the north. It's absolutely, I'll try to find it and link to it down below. It's absolutely hilarious. Spanning nearly half a century and set against the backdrop of a country which is slowly, reluctantly evolving into a modern, multiracial society, we discover the truth of both Peter's tragic background and Ruth's agonizing secret, and witness Victor, out of his depth, adjusting to the painful realities of life in a new country. Okay, so do we have Carol Phillips is the author of numerous works of fiction and nonfiction, including A View of the Empire at Sunset, The Lost Child, Crossing the River, and Color Me English. His novel A Distant Shore won the Commonwealth Prize. And he lives in New York. And it looks like A View of the Empire at Sunset got a blurb from the Christian Science Monitor, but that wasn't me. Okay, great. Well, this comes out in early January. It's a novel in early January. I am still... I periodically mention on this channel that I am the... among other things, I am one of the editors of the online literary journal Open Letters Review. A number of you have taken me up on my suggestion that maybe you try writing a book review or two for Open Letters Review. Some of you are running with it, building an actual clip file. It's entirely possible to do. These clips get noticed. They get noticed. Open Letters might be very, very small, but we punch above our weight. We always have. For 15 years or more. We always have. So the critical world notices it's a really good way to get your foot in the door of reviewing, if that's what you want to do. I'm not making any, I don't have any illusions that anybody reviewing for Open Letters wants to stay there, although I'd love it if the good ones, I'd love it if people stayed. But I'm expecting that what you're going to do instead is write a bunch of reviews, maybe get blurbed on a couple of books, get mentioned, get talked about, and then use that as grist to pitch yourself to a paying editor somewhere else. Open Letters has always been really good for that, back when it was Open Letters Monthly, and now when it's Open Letters Review. We're really good for that. And I have been lightly mentioning that the whole contemporary fiction thing, I largely have contempt for contemporary fiction. I will review some of it, but it'd be great if I had somebody who wanted to do contemporary fiction. Now, I know. Jack Edwards, I'm sure, is watching. He's my number one fan, and he's thinking, maybe I should do that. But Jack, I think we'd be a step down for you. 2 million, 2.5 million subscribers, invited to give speeches and pass out literary awards and be on the red carpet, looking ever so cute with your snub nose and your product hair. Probably be a step down for you to write a book review for Open Letters Review, now wouldn't it? Might be a learning experience, might help to bolster the unbelievably ridiculous claim you make on your channel that you are a book reviewer. It might be nice to try book reviewing before you call yourself one. But I'm not thinking of you, Jack. No. But I am thinking of the rest of you. I'm sure that some of you, despite my best efforts, like contemporary fiction. Once again, the normal rules of Steve's mailing life apply. You have to meet 3 criteria. You have to know where you live. Which, if you're new to this channel, you might think, well, you must be talking in metaphor because everyone knows where they live. Prove it. Prove it. I have no evidence of that. It happens at least once a month that somebody will ask me, either a potential reviewer or just a person who wants a book that they saw on my channel, will tell me, could you please mail that to me? I'd really appreciate it. Of course, I'm mostly going to say yes to that. I'm an old softy. And I'll say, give me your mailing address. They'll send me a mailing address and it'll be wrong. There'll be huge functional parts of it, necessary parts of it that they just left out. So I pack the thing up. I go to the post office. I pay them money to mail it. I'm not getting that back. And it never reaches its recipient because they just don't know where they live. They don't know how to give me a correct mailing address for where they live. It's true that it's been a few years since anyone actually compounded that by just blithely telling me, "I'll try again." Yeah, you're right. I left out a chunk of my mailing address. Try again. It's been a few years since anybody had the gall to do that. But that's criteria number one. You have to know where you live. Criteria number two is that where you live needs to be in the lower 48 continental United States. Not Canada, not Mexico, not Alaska, not Hawaii, and certainly not anywhere else. Because it's going to cost me $150 just on postage, and it's not going to reach you. Anyway, no matter how exhaustively accurate you are about your address, it's not going to reach you. So you have to know where you live, and where you live has to be in the lower 48 of the continental United States. And the third thing is you have to want the book. You can't be Captain Casual. You can't be saying, Carl Phillips, yeah, heard of him, sure. I might look at it if you sent it to me. Yeah, thanks. Thanks. If you want the book, if you want it, if you want to review it in January, feel free to let me know. Anyway, let's look at these other two packages, which they are giving off bad vibes, as the kids say. I think they might be gifts. And the reason that's a bad vibe, those of you who are new or finding my channel new, is that number one rule on this channel is don't send me a book. Don't send me a book. I have all the books I need. I know that I'm surrounded by books. You might think, oh, he's going to love getting books in the mail, and I do love getting books in the mail from publishers. But if you're trying to send me a book as a surprise, you're picking a book out of your Oxfam shop, and you think, oh, Steve will like that because he likes books, the chances of you picking something blind that I both want and don't have are virtually zero. So you have two options. Three options. Option number one is to obey rule number one, just don't send me a book. Option number two is if you really if you really want to be responsible for me getting a book I will love, then call in-store credit at the Brattle Bookshop in Boston, and that way you guarantee it. Not only do you guarantee that I will use that credit to get a book that I love, you'll also be secondarily guaranteeing that you see what I get because I'll do a book haul. And the third way is the way that most of you just adamantly will not do. It just goes against your Protestant upbringing or whatever, which is to spoil the surprise and ask me about a specific book. Send me a picture of it and say, do you have this? And if not, do you want it? That's why rule number one exists on this channel, those of you who are new to this channel. If you're new to this channel, that's the baby bean. And rule number one is don't send me a book. Rule number two is Steve is always right. And rule number three is definitely send me your tech. Although not your oldest tech anymore. That rule number three has a bit changed. Because I've changed my attitude about tech, which is all important. That's all important to do. What I want two pieces of tech now, and they're rarefied and will be expensive. The only way that you would be able to send me these is if maybe your company reimburses you, so you upgrade it, or maybe you upgrade anyway and you just make a lot more money than a freelance editor. I find it hard to believe, but maybe so. I want a larger iPhone that charges with USB-C, and I want a normal what example do we have here? A normal 10-inch iPad. I don't have the iPad, but I have the covering. The normal 10-inch iPad, the normal size iPad that is also USB-C, that is new and has lots of storage. So not the 12.9-inch iPad Pro and not the 6-inch iPad Mini. I have both of those thanks to the generosity of you people, and I love them. I use them. But the mid-range iPad. Only a modern one with modern pickup, modern chipset, and especially modern memory, modern storage. So the 250 gigs of storage, something like that. So a phone that's I want all my stuff to be USB-C. And I want it all to have lots and lots of memory. And that usually will mean a much better processing system than the ones I have now. I have... I have no brand new tech, but I call them brand new because they're so good compared to what I've had, and they're all products of your generosity. I have the iPad Mini 6 with 250 gigs of storage. I have a A small penis. Oh no, that's him. I have a 12.9-inch iPad Pro with 250 gigs of storage, and I have an M1 MacBook Air. I know they're up to M4 now, but the M1 is still a miracle of speed and responsivity compared to any other MacBook that I've ever had. So I have those three things, and what I need, not need, of course, because I don't need any of this stuff, but what I want is a 10-inch iPad that's new, USB-C, probably a really good processing chip, and 250 gigs of storage, and a newer phone that will probably end up being bigger, that is USB-C, and that has a lot of storage. And I don't think any of you have a 10-inch new iPad hanging around. And I don't think any of you have a larger, newer iPhone hanging around either. If you do, feel free to adhere to rule number 3, but otherwise, no. But let's see rule number 1 here, because I'm pretty sure that that's what this is. Oh no, well, okay, maybe not. Hi Steve, here's that new book. Okay, well, no, this is from a writer. It's not from it. Is this new? I'm drawing a blank on what this is. I'm sure there's correspondence behind it. This is from 2024. Okay, this is by Steve Eilert, and this is The Book Lovers, the big prominent blurb by Michael Moorcock and Alan Moore. How incredible. Okay, so let's see what we have here. There's no sheet for this. I got a nice note, but there's no sheet. Let's see here. The kidnap of a rebellious heiress leads Inspector Nightjar into a steampunk underworld of brain love, greed, and revolution. Can the Raven method uncover the big truth? What powers Thousand Tower City? Why are books telling unfamiliar stories? How cozy is anarchy? And it's got, as I mentioned, blurbs from Michael Moorcock and Alan Moore. That's not bad at all to have that happen. And it's a 2024 release. The Book Lovers. Does anyone know about this book? I'll have to check my. I get a lot of emails in a day. I'll have to check and see. There must be correspondence behind that to explain it. But it isn't technically a violation of rule number 1. It did come from an author. It is his own book. So let's see what this next one is. Also suspiciously individually packed, leading me to think yeah, these, okay, it looks like an author or an author's friend bought a couple of books on Amazon and sent them to me. So let's see what these are. So the author is okay. The author is F. Gardner, as I know if I look at the spine, but not if I look on the cover. The first one is Frazzle Drip, Call of Tartaria, a horror novel. Let's make sure we don't block the bean. She's more important than any of the books. And then the other one is Kabbalah of the Crocodile, half the size of the first one. And it is also by F. Gardner. So F. Gardner's name is not on the covers of these books. It's on the spine. Okay. Well, self-published. This looks like these are self-published, and they can often be little realms of mystery. Like, who is this guy, and what's he doing on the cover? No idea. But let's see what we have here. Oh my! Oh goodness gracious! Oh my! F. Gardner. No. No. F. Gardner, you don't dump me straight into chapter 1. You don't do it. Pay for the extra pages. Put opening matter here. Don't just, nothing says self-published in the worst way. More than that, don't dump me onto chapter 1 like that. Oh no. But do we have a description? Let's see here. F. Gardner is, oh well, his picture's on the back as well. I guess that's him. Down here. Is a famous author who lives in Chicago. He's the author of the Horrors Call series of books. He's from Chicago, is a Buddhist, and is a flat earther. He enjoys smoking cigarettes and watching anime. Okay, no idea how much of that is tongue-in-cheek. No idea at all. Here's hoping that most of it is. Anyway, we do have a description on the back here. Sophie and Mason are two young students at the elite Ouroboros Academy, a private satanic school in Chicago. Two children born into elite and a cult start to sense something is deeply wrong with their lives. And we start, boom, on chapter 1. So, okay. Well, I'm wondering about that author bio, but we'll let it go. We'll move on to the Kabbalah of the Crocodile. Okay, so let's take a look here. Frazzle Drip. Oh, that's right. It jumps me straight into chapter 1. Is there any information in the back? No, there's no information in the back either. No. F. Gardner, you have to play the game. You're right. You have to play the game. I know you're probably an iconoclast, but you have to play the game. There's got to be publication material here. No one, I mean, the goal here is to get your book reviewed. You don't have any copyright information on this thing. No one can review it without that. I have no idea when this came out, but this is long, and this is short, and this has a different cover artist, author, photo, and a different description. So there is the author this time. Now he's only got one hand up in the air instead of two. And we're told F. Gardner is a Chicago native and author of Horror's Call series of books. Still got the Buddhist garb on, but no mention of being a flat earther, which is terrific. There's that might have been done as a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke before people who have actual elective power in the United States started saying that they believe the Earth is flat. Once it becomes dangerous, it's no longer funny. Of course, the Earth is not flat and has been known to be not flat for thousands and thousands of years. It is as settled a question as settled questions get. So, if it's tongue in cheek, the joke would have landed a lot better before Marjorie Taylor Greene, a representative in U.S. Congress, said that she was a flat earther. Nominally gets to write laws. I mean, she's not interested in governing, but what if she were? It's not quite so funny when people who have nominal, titular power over you are also insane enough to think that. But anyway, he's changed his biography. He's now just a Chicago native. Let's see what this one is. A horror novel about the darkest Kabbalah secret. There are no secrets in Kabbalah. A man in Chicago begins to suspect that there are secrets within the famous horror novel called The Call of the Crocodile. Determined to figure out what the secrets are, he takes his copy of the book to a group of rabbis who study Kabbalah and specialize in decoding secrets in books. But he finds something out that he wasn't expecting. He discovers a dark secret and realizes the rabbis are up to something very sinister. Okay. Now see, this has got to be a later book, because here we have the cover. And then we get a dedication. Dedicated to myself in a future reincarnation. Well, okay. It's not much better. There's no such thing as reincarnation. You're not in your body. You are your body. There's no part of you that's just tenanting in your body and will move on somewhere else when your heartbeat stops. So there's no reincarnation. You do not survive your body. You are your body. But we can, no, F. Gardner. Okay. All right. Let's a little tutorial here. This is really bad. Dumping me straight into your book without a title page, without a frontispiece, without any copyright information, without any front matter at all, is really bad. It screams self-published in all the worst ways, in all the ways that maintain the unfair prejudice against self-published books. That just screams it. There's only one thing that screams it worse. I thought you were recovering the ball. You were dedicating this to your future reincarnated self. But then, when I turned that page, there's still no copyright information, and you have put the beginning of the chapter on the wrong side. All chapters start here. This is blank. All chapters start here. They start on this side. Does that mean you're just going to run me straight through the chapters all throughout this? Oh, God help us, F. Gardner. Yeah, there's chapter 2 right there. No, no, you don't do that. You have to play the game. It might seem like a small thing, but it is. It is a small thing. So why don't you treat it that way? No, No, this is blank or the end of the chapter, and chapter 2 is right here, set midway through the page. And then you move on from there. And when you get to the end of chapter 2, you do the same thing for chapter 3 all throughout the book. And you need an opening. You need a frontispiece. You need end papers. You need copyright information. But they're still books, and they were very kindly sent to me. So give them a try. I don't have any copyright information, and I'll be hanged if I'm going to do your work for you and look you up online or on your website to date which of these books came first. I'll be hanged if I'll do that. So I will read the shorter one first, and let's just see what I make of it. So fiction, zany gonzo fiction of the type that typically doesn't appeal to me, but we'll give it a try. I try everything with an open mind. So we have the Kabbalah of the Crocodile and Frazzle Drip. We have The Book Lovers. We have Another Man in the Street by Carol Phillips. And we have the latest National Review, the last issue of the National Review, before today's presidential election is determined, or at least starts to be determined. Since I think there's a real strong likelihood that if Donald Trump loses, he will contest the election. He's already contesting the election. He's already declared that he won with 10% of the votes cast. So I think it's going to be, how do the kids refer to it? A crap show? but at least the next issue of National Review will be what we can learn, or the follow-up, or it will be a black cover saying we are going out of business. And with any luck, I will see that issue on a newsstand rather than in my mailbox. I will see something else in its place in my mailbox. But anyway, that's the mail for today. Some ostentatiously self-published books, and a gift from overseas, and a new novel, first novel from this novelist in almost a decade. So there you go. That is the mail. I'm trying to distract myself here, but I think I might call curtains on videos and just walk around. Just walk around, get us both good and tired, and then come back, shower, clean up, have some water, have a little snack, and then read analog print and paper books. Read until sundown. I think that's probably the way to go. By sundown, it'll be cool enough to move around again. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back.